We're live tonight in the Port Richmond section of Staten Island. Marvin Scott, Pix 11 News. At the state capitol in Albany, I'm Marvin Scott.
This is the Emmy Award-winning 11 News Close-Up with your host, Marvin Scott.
Good morning.
You hear the sirens right now, and that indicates it's a red alert.
Marvin Scott has navigated the nation and the globe for the WB11 News.
I'm Marvin Scott in Washington. Marvin Scott reporting from Israel.
I'm Marvin Scott on the bridge of the USS Alexandria, one of the nation's fastest nuclear attack submarines.
I'm aboard a C-130 about to leave Kuwait.
One of his first assignments, a 1980 vigil in Central Park for murdered ex-Beatle John Lennon. Before long, Marvin landed in Washington as the Iranian hostage crisis was about to end for 52 Americans held captive for more than a year. And Marvin was there when they landed at Stewart Air Force Base in upstate New York.
There was no distance between the 52 American heroes and the nearly 200,000 people who turned out to greet them.
Marvin would not forget another assignment, the launch of the first space shuttle.
You're going to hear the cheering, and you're going to hear the roar of the crowd here 3 miles from Launch Complex 39.
Sadly, Marvin would return to Cape Canaveral in 1986 when the shuttle Challenger exploded during takeoff. In the 80s, Marvin caught up with Britain's Prince Charles during his first New York visit.
Good New York food. It's not quite the Thames, but how was the view from the East River and the Hudson River? Very impressive. This entire convention hall has exploded in excitement.
Marvin covers every presidential nominating convention, and he received one of his 6 news Emmys for reporting on the congressional Whitewater hearings.
This is the brass ring.
But Israel has never before had to deal with the assassination of a prime minister.
Marvin was there when slain Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin was laid to rest, and on September 11, 2001, he spent many hours on the news set anchoring coverage of the Twin Tower terror attacks.
Our Marvin, it seems, has been everywhere, covering Dr. Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement in the 1960s, the U.S. space program. His assignments have taken him from the front lines of Cambodia to the Middle East, where he interviewed Golda Meir and Yasser Arafat.
As much as I'm harnessed in here, I'm feeling my body lifting. There goes my glove.
He has spoken with presidents.
6 presidents, to be exact.
Special guest today is former President Gerald Ford.
He has spoken with mayors.
Every mayor since John Lindsay.
Marvin easily won the hearts of American troops when he traveled to Camp Anaconda in Iraq. He brought them bagels and hot dogs and Christmas spirit, along with TV reunions with their families back home.
I miss you, Daddy. I love you so much. I'm so proud of you. Merry Christmas.
This means so much. This means so much. Thank you so much.
I have an attitude that there's no substitute for being there.
I believe the convention.
And I have been to most of the places where much of the news has been generated.
Every kind of person walks on Times Square. We've got an investigative reporter standing right in this row. Marvin Scott from Channel 11 in New York, right here. See this? We don't get just plain people like a butcher or a lady that works as a chambermaid. Look at this.
In another historic moment today, when Marvin Scott and Channel 11 cameraman John Frossi became the first members of the Western media to be allowed aboard a guided missile destroyer, Bazudershny, which was headed out to sea for the voyage back to Mother Russia.
Spasibo. Thank you. You're all welcome.
A member of the WB11 family was at the New York Stock Exchange today, not to report for once, but to ring the closing bell. Marvin Scott was joined by executives from British Airways and the Intrepid Sea, Air and Space Museum as they closed out the day of trading. They were celebrating Marvin's 40th year in broadcast.
And it's the richness of being here some 40 years later, still doing it. And I'm not stopping.